Welcome to another amazing episode of Raising Private Money. I'm Jay Conner, your host, also known as the Private Money Authority. And today I've got a very, very special guest that knows all about raising private money from investors. And also, he's going to be sharing with you, if you're interested in being a passive investor, how you can participate in that. Well, he raises hundreds of thousands of dollars in private money from his investors every month. And he does that primarily through the investment club that he founded. Well, he's a rental industry expert, and he co-founded a first of its kind rental automation service. Now, he and his wife and daughter, they love traveling the world. They love real estate, passive income, lifestyle design, and teaching. So he and his wife actually combined all those three together to create what's called SparkRental. So we'll get him to talk about all that. Well, some people just want the high returns and tax benefits of real estate investments, but they don't want to go through the headaches of finding deals, negotiating deals, or becoming a landlord. So for them, my guest has created what's called the Co-Investing Club and Fire from Real Estate program to help them invest passively in real estate syndication. In fact, my guest now is one of those passive investors, as he spends, as I mentioned, most of the year traveling overseas with his wife and daughter. Now, other investors want the control of owning individual properties directly. Now, for them, my guest has created what's called the free landlord software, free calculators such as free rental income calculator and free depreciation calculator, and has interactive maps that shows the best cities for rentals and where you would want to invest. So with enough passive income from real estate, you can actually reach your financial independence. You can live off your rent and your distributions. And then what's really nice, your day job becomes optional. In just a moment, you're going to meet my special guest, Mr. Brian Davis, right after this.
If you're a real estate investor and are wondering how to raise and leverage private money to make more profit on every deal, then you're in the right place. On Raising Private Money, we'll speak with new and seasoned investors to dissect their deals and extract the best tips and strategies to help you get the money, because the money comes first. Now here's your host, Jay Conner.
Well, hey there, Brian. Welcome to the show.
Jay, thank you so much for having me. I'm glad to be here.
I'm excited to have you. I'm so excited to have you because, first of all, you walk the walk and you talk the talk. You're doing this business, and you've created some pretty cool avenues to where people can learn how to be direct investors themselves or to be passive investors and that type of thing. So give us, in short, the background story as to what got you into real estate and what got you to where you are from where you came from.
Oh man, the the super short version is that out of college, I had no idea what I wanted to do. Like so many young people, I fell into a job working for a subprime mortgage company. This is back in the early aughts when that was all the rage, as you remember. And I was working for the owners of the company, and they didn't need another loan officer or processor or anything like that. They actually needed someone to help them with their hard money loans that they did totally on the side of their subprime mortgage lending business. So I ended up working with them as a loan originator for hard money loans. I'm working with real estate investors, flippers, burr investors, all throughout the aughts when it was all one big party in real estate and watching all these guys make money hand over fist. And of course, I come to the conclusion that I can do this too. I mean, everybody's just making all this money in real estate. I need to jump in and make all this money in real estate too. So, I plowed into real estate, invested all of my money, lost all of my money in the crash of 2008. But I learned a ton about real estate investing. I went on to work for e-commerce companies and SaaS companies that serviced real estate investors. I sold off all my rental properties by this point. After moving abroad, I sold off all my properties. I still wanted to invest in real estate, however. So I got into passive real estate investing, and that is what I do every single month today. But I don't do it alone. I do it as part of an investment club of hundreds of other investors. We get together and we vet investments, and we go in on them together to make it more accessible for all of us.
So it's been my observation over the years. I've been full time investing in single family houses since 2003 here in Eastern North Carolina, and then started raising money when the banks cut me off in 2009, which that was pretty funny. Our business actually tripled that first year because we were raising private money and no longer relying on the banks. But it's been my observation that all real estate investors have a story to where something happened that caused them to find a better and quicker way to fund their deals, i.e., private money. Did something happen in your business, or did you just automatically do it because you had the hard money background and experience?
So I was living in Abu Dhabi at the time. My wife and I moved abroad in 2015. I still had, I guess at that point, I had 15 rental properties back in the States. And I realized just how much those properties were reliant on my time and effort to perform. When I was living in the same city as those properties, it was not as obvious. I would spend my nights and weekends here and there supporting those properties, even though I had a property manager. Moved overseas, and it became glaringly obvious just how much of that I had been doing because I couldn't do it anymore. And those properties were just not performing. So I got rid of those properties, but we had founded SparkRental at that time, my business partner, Deni, and myself. And we're teaching real estate investing. We're providing all these tools and resources for real estate investors. And I just felt really out of alignment in, servicing real estate investors and teaching real estate investing while no longer being a real estate investor myself. So I started experimenting with different ways to invest from the other side of the world. And I messed around with most of the different real estate crowdfunding platforms that were available to non-accredited investors. I started investing in real estate syndications, and I quickly got to the point where I ran out of my own personal money to invest in those. I mean, with syndications, the minimum investment is typically 50 grand, sometimes 100 grand. So you run out of your own money pretty quickly in that case. And it was around that time that, we kept having our audience members and our course students and our customers saying like, hey, I want to invest in real estate. I'm not ready to go out and buy a property by myself yet. Can I just invest with you guys on some of the projects that you're investing in? And again, I was feeling kind of out of alignment about that. So I turned to my partner and said, well, what if we went in on some projects with our audience members and our course students and, do some joint venture deals with them? They can learn the ropes. We can all invest with smaller amounts of money. And she said, well, sure, let's try it. So we did a couple JV deals with a boots on the ground partner. And those were fine. They went okay. The returns were good. It was way too much work, these active deals that we were doing. And we weren't making any money on them. It was just a way to kind of service our course students. So I said, all right, well, what if we tried doing this with syndications? What if we go in on some syndications together with our course students and with our audience members? And we did. We did a pilot deal, and it was really popular. People liked it. People were able to invest with much smaller amounts of money than the typical 50 or 100 grand. I was able to invest personally with a lot less money than that typical 50 or 100 grand. And that's how our co-investing club was born. So nowadays we get together every month, and I want to be careful about how I use terminology here. I don't want to say that we raise hundreds of thousands of dollars a month, because we're not co-sponsors of these deals, but we are organizing our investor members in our investment club to collectively invest typically between 250 and 600 grand a month in a new passive real estate investment. And I can speak more about, what types of investments those are, or, whatever direction you want to go in here.
Sure. Well, I was going to ask what it was that caused the investment club to be born and for you to found that. And you alluded to that, to some degree.
Yeah. So Initially, we only opened this up to people who had taken our courses. We were selling online courses at the time. And then my partner and I were wondering, well, can we open this up to the general public? Does it have to just be our course students? So we sat down with an attorney and we talked about the legalities of that. And we set it up as a flat fee membership business model, basically. So we don't get a cut of any of the money that's invested by our club every month, by our members. Quite the opposite. We're actually putting our own personal money in these deals. It's just one more member of our investment club. But we charge a flat membership fee, a monthly membership fee for being a part of this investment club. And that's the business model that we use. That's how we stay on the right side of the law. We're not selling securities. So
in other words, what you're doing is you are offering and selling a membership.
Yes. Yeah, it's a flat fee membership business. And collectively, as a club, we vet a new passive real estate investment every month. Sometimes it's syndications. Sometimes it's a private JV partnership on a real estate deal. Sometimes it's a private debt fund or a private equity real estate fund. It could be a private note. So we're agnostic on the type of investment as long as it is a hands-off real estate investment. And we do want to earn what we would call asymmetric returns. We want to earn potentially high returns with potentially low to medium risk. Because otherwise, what's the point of people paying a monthly membership fee if they're just going to get average returns, right? So that's the mission really of our club, is to find asymmetric returns and make them available to middle-class investors, not just the ultra wealthy.
So let's dive in on asymmetric returns. I've been in this business a long time and I never heard that phrase, asymmetric returns. So dive in on that. What is it? And how do you find investments that offer asymmetric returns after you define it?
Yeah, so asymmetric returns are those that offer high risk with low, high returns with low to medium risk. So those investments are out there. The average investor thinks of just a linear relationship between risks and returns, right? They think pretty one-dimensionally about risk and returns, that high return investments must come with high risk and low return investments must come with low risk. And that's the invisible hand of the markets, if you will. That is a very one-dimensional way of thinking about investments. There are actually a lot of other dimensions to investments, such as liquidity, for example. Can you access your money quickly, or are the investments really difficult to buy and sell? They cost a lot of time, cost a lot of money to buy and sell. Time commitment. How long are you locked into an investment? That is another dimension to investments. Minimum investment amount. That's another dimension too. For example, you could find the best investment in the world that pays really high returns with really, really low risk. But if the minimum investment is $1 million and you don't have $1 million, you can't access it, right? There's all these other dimensions to investments. Accreditation requirements. Do you have to be an accredited investor to participate in an investment? A lot of the best investments out there are only available to accredited investors. Personal values, another example. So if you look at the historical volatility versus returns on, say, oil drilling investments, they come with pretty high average annual returns with relatively low risk. But a lot of people's personal values don't align with drilling for oil, right? So, again, there are all these many different dimensions to investments beyond risk and returns. So once you wrap your head around the fact that risk and returns are not just on this linear spectrum, that this is actually, a multi-dimensional, beast that you're looking at, then you can accept the fact that there can be asymmetric returns out there. There can be returns with high investments with high returns and low risk, but they're going to have these other things going on that, maybe other drawbacks, maybe a high minimum investment, maybe low liquidity or no liquidity. Maybe it's a long-term time commitment. And that is really the foundation of what we're looking at in this club, is trying to find those asymmetric returns while being clear-eyed about other drawbacks or other dimensions to these investments.
So it sounds like your investment club that you co-founded answers that or gives a solution to that problem of people having to have 50,000 or 100,000 available in liquidity, either from investment capital or retirement funds, to even get involved in those. But in your investment club, it sounds like you got the answer to that. So people can start in with smaller amounts in your investment club, right?
That's right. So that solves a couple problems for investors. One, it allows in people with less capital to invest, right? I mean, if you don't have 50 grand, you can't normally go out and invest in a real estate syndication or a real estate private equity fund. Our club solves for that. It gives access to people with less money. And even for people who do have plenty of money to invest, it allows them to diversify and spread their money across a lot more investments. I like to think of these returns on a bell curve where, at the bottom left-hand corner of the curve, you're going to have some investments that underperform, right? They're going to miss. And then at the far right-hand corner of that bell curve, you're going to have some investments that just hit it out of the park and way overperform. And most of these investments are going to be somewhere in the middle of that bell curve. But if you only have enough money, if the minimum investment on these is 50 grand, 100 grand, it's hard for you to actually create that bell curve in your own investments because there aren't enough plot points on that data chart, right? You're investing 100 grand in a single asset. You're going to be chewing on your fingernails at night, worrying about how that asset is doing, as opposed to, if you can invest across 12 deals in a single year, 5 grand a piece, instead of 60 grand in a single deal in a year, then it just becomes numbers on a page. And you're just looking at the average returns across those different deals. Some of them underperform, some overperform. That's okay. It's not going to keep you awake at night the same way. So yeah, those are some of the problems that we solve for by going in on these investments together. The minimum investment in our club is 5 grand, by the way, which just, makes it more accessible to everybody. And we do have a policy where we want to make all of these investments inclusive for our non-accredited investor members. So we only look at investments that allow non-accredited investors as well, not just accredited investors.
Well, that's great. And as you said, the investment club does answer the problem for people that don't have as much to start with. And it also answers the problem to people that have large amounts of investment capital, but they want to diversify, right? And so you offer the diversification solution. In case any of our audience members need to jump off before we finish the show, I want you to go ahead and give out, Brian, the best contact information to learn about your investment club and how people can become a member of your investment club.
Yeah, so come to SparkRental.com. We have a free course as well if you are interested in passive real estate investments and how those work. We have a free course at SparkRental.com/free, and that will also show you how to set up your own investment club with your friends and family. If you don't want to mess around with us and ours, you can create your own, and that's totally fine too. But most people are not familiar with these types of hands-off real estate investments, syndications and private equity real estate funds and private notes and private partnerships. So we walk through all of those and sort of the pros and cons of each, how they all work. So yeah, take that free course. And then of course, come to our website, check out the details of our investment club. And you can email us at support@sparkrental.com if you have any questions.
And wonderful. Of course, we'll have all that in the show notes. Now, another area that you are an expert in, and you've really dialed this in, is being very, very intentional about your lifestyle design. You and your wife and your daughter, you all live abroad, you travel abroad, you've been doing this for a number of years. So here's the question. How can people intentionally start creating their ideal life through what you call lifestyle design?
Yeah, I mean, so lifestyle design is one of those terms that a lot of people, some people don't like it, some people find it pretentious, but it's really just about intentionality and getting to the root of does your dream lifestyle look like? What are your highest priorities in your life? And there's a framework that we use to help people wrap their heads around this that I think is very useful. So we talk about what we call the 5 freedoms, and I'll walk through those really quickly. The first is simply freedom from financial stress. Because if you're laying awake at night worrying about money, then nothing else matters. I mean, you can't think about anything else. So the first thing you have to do is get out, escape financial stress. Get on a budget, get a higher savings rate, get an emergency fund, all the sort of fundamentals of personal finance. Then once you have that done as a foundation, you can get into some more exciting stuff. You can start creating time freedom where you control the hours that you work, both the number of hours that you work every week and when you work those hours. You can start creating location freedom where you can live and work and earn money anywhere in the world, or at least in the place of your choice, living in your ideal city or state or country. And then work freedom. People often don't think about this one, but being able to do your ideal work is ultimately the pinnacle here. It's not necessarily the fifth freedom of financial freedom, which everyone thinks of as sort of the pinnacle. But I mean, I've interviewed dozens of people who have reached financial independence and retired early, and they all went back to work because there's only so long that you can sit on a beach sipping Mai Tais, right? I mean, you just become a fat alcoholic at a certain point. So if you know from the get-go that work freedom and doing your ideal work is the ultimate goal, then you can actually skip that fifth level of financial freedom, or not skip it necessarily, but it becomes the cherry on top instead of the end all be all. So you want to start thinking about what is my ideal work? How much does it pay? How much income can it generate? If it can generate enough to meet my needs, my living expense needs, then great. What are you doing? What are you waiting for? Go quit your current job and go do your ideal work now. For most people, they find that their ideal work maybe doesn't pay quite as much as what they want to spend every year. And that's okay. So in that case, you just need to plug the gap. You just need to fill that shortfall between what your ideal work pays and what you want to spend every year. And you can do that with passive income from real estate investments, passive income from other investments like stocks or bonds, or your investments of choice. But that's a lot easier to do, just to cover that shortfall than it is to cover all of your living expenses and reach true financial freedom. So that's a mindset shift that we really encourage people to go through. And sort of go through these mapping exercises of figuring out, what does my ideal life look like? What do my ideal working hours look like? What does my ideal location look like? What does my ideal work look like? How much does it all pay? How much am I short every month? And how do I plug that gap?
And how does the audience get connected to that exercise or learn how to do that? Which URL would they find that at?
Well, we're planning on launching a mastermind group specifically around this over the next month or two. It is not live yet, so I can't plug it yet. I can't give your audience a URL to go to sign up for that. But if you go to our website and if you sign up for our mailing list, we will send out notifications when that goes live. And we are going to be sitting down with those mastermind group members every single week and working on those exercises with those members every week. It'll be very intimate, very hands-on. It's very much about actual life changes as opposed to just the investments that we focus on in our co-investing club.
So they can get on your mailing list at SparkRental.com?
That's right.
Okay, then they've been notified of this group that's coming up. Last question I got for you, Brian. So you live overseas, you travel the world. Do you do that solely just because you want to, or is there a direct connection to saving money?
Oh, well, both. So in fact, we're actually planning on moving back to the U.S. later this year after 10 years abroad. And my wife and I were running the numbers, and it was a little intimidating. It's going to cost us an extra $60,000 a year to live in the U.S. compared to what we've been doing overseas. And some of that is the cost of living differential, of course. Some of it is that my wife gets amazing benefits through her job. She's an international educator. So she is a school counselor. She works for embassy schools around the world. And they provide us with free housing, full health insurance, paid flights home every year. I mean, just incredible benefits. that if anyone works in education as a teacher or administrator or some other job in education, definitely look into international schools. It is it's one of those secrets, one of those life acceleration secrets out there. So yeah, we have been able to live a very comfortable lifestyle entirely on my wife's income for the last decade, living overseas. We've been able to save and invest all of my income, which has really accelerated our journey to building wealth and reaching financial independence. That's been huge. And in fact, we don't even have a car anymore. It was interesting when we first left the US, we had that American mindset of, every adult in the household needs to have a car. So we moved to Abu Dhabi and we were like, well, could we actually get away with sharing a car? And then we tried it for a month. And yes, it was very easy for us to share a car. And then we moved from Abu Dhabi to Brazil. We moved to the capital city of Brasilia and to a very walkable area. And we were like, well, what if we didn't have a car at all? So we tried a month living with no car and just walking, biking, Ubering around if needed. And we've been carless ever since, and it's been wonderful. I walk to work every day. I walk to a co-working space where I have an office, and I can't speak highly enough about that lifestyle. So there are a dozen advantages to living overseas. Adventure, of course, being one of them, but there are a lot of financial advantages too. And I'll touch base on one last one that might interest listeners, is that we don't pay very much in U.S. income taxes because we're overseas. There's something called the foreign earned income exclusion. That is basically that roughly your first 115 grand of income per adult is tax-free every year. So between my wife and me, that's 230 grand in tax-free income. Now, you do still have to pay self-employment taxes if you are self-employed, but there are a lot of advantages to living overseas.
That is amazing. Brian, thank you so much for sharing your lifestyle, design, and I'm excited for the new mastermind group that you're going to be starting up to work with individuals on how they can create their own lifestyle design. For our listeners and viewers who want to learn about being investors in your investment club, they want to go to SparkRental.com. And so, Brian, the joy is all mine. Thank you for joining me here on Raising Private Money.
Oh, Jay, thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun.
You got it. And there you have it, another amazing episode of Raising Private Money. And I need your help. In order to continue to have amazing guests join me here on the show, I need for you to like, share, subscribe, give a 5-star review. And if you happen to be watching on YouTube, be sure and click that bell so you don't miss out on the upcoming episodes. I'm Jay Connor. I look forward to seeing you right here on the next episode of Raising Private Money.
Are you feeling inspired by the knowledge you gained in this episode? Then head over to jconnor.com/moneyguide. That's jconner.com/moneyguide and download your free guide that shares 7 reasons why private money will skyrocket your real estate investing business right now. Again, that's jconnor.com/moneyguide to get your free guide. We'll see you next time on Raising Private Money with Jay Connor.